Football fans around the world are holding their breath because the match everyone feared and everyone secretly wanted is finally here. Spain and France, the two pre-tournament favorites, the two best teams on the planet right now, are on a collision course in Dallas. And for FIFA, for neutral fans, for anyone hoping for a wide-open World Cup, this is close to a nightmare scenario. The two strongest teams in the competition are meeting one step before the final, which means one of these football giants is going home in heartbreak on Tuesday night. If you're a football fan, you already know why this fixture matters. But stick around, because in the next few minutes, we're going to break down everything you need to know. The road both teams took to get here, the head-to-head history that has Spain fans smiling, the injury list that could decide the outcome, and what both managers are saying just hours before kickoff. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why so many people are calling this the real final of the 2026 World Cup. Let's set the scene. This is the semi-final stage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, hosted across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Only 4 teams remain in the entire tournament: France, Spain, England, and defending champions Argentina. The bracket has split cleanly down European lines on one side, with France and Spain meeting in the first semi-final, while England takes on Argentina in the second. And almost every neutral observer agrees on the same thing. Whoever survives the France-Spain clash will go into the final as the favorite, no matter who they end up facing. That's the level we're talking about here. Both sides arrived in North America as the two most feared teams in the draw, and both have backed that reputation up. This isn't a surprise package sneaking into the Final Four. This is two footballing superpowers, stacked with generational talent, on a direct collision course a full match earlier than most people wanted. Let's start with France, because their run through this tournament has been nothing short of ruthless. Through 6 matches, Didier Deschamps' side is a perfect 6 wins, 0 draws, 0 losses. Side index equals 1-1. They booked their semi-final spot with a 2-0 win over Morocco in a rematch of the 2022 World Cup semi-final. /site, that result alone tells you something about the psychological hold France has developed over knockout football at this level. They simply do not blink. The individual numbers back up the collective dominance. Side index equals 2-1. Kylian Mbappe has been the driving force in attack, and by far France's most lethal weapon at the tournament, with 8 goals and 3 assists heading into the semi-final. /site, that puts him firmly in the conversation for the Golden Boot. And it's worth pointing out just how close he is to football history. Side index equals 1-1. Only 2 players in World Cup history have ever scored 20 goals at the tournament: Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi, and Mbappe is closing in on that number fast. /site, but this France team isn't a one-man show. Side index equals 1-1. Michael Ollis has been a revelation in his first World Cup, racking up a tournament-high 6 assists in 6 matches, putting him 1 assist away from tying Pelé's all-time World Cup record for assists in a single tournament. /site, when your captain is chasing Messi's scoring record and your winger is chasing a Pelé record in the same run, you understand why France is being talked about as the team to beat. Now let's talk about Spain, because their story this tournament has been built on something completely different: nerve and defensive resilience. Side index equals 1-1. Spain's results haven't been as dominant as France's on paper, with several of their wins decided by a single goal, and 2 of their match winners arriving after the 85th minute, including a stoppage-time winner against Portugal. /site, this is a team that has made a habit of finding a way, even when the performance isn't at its sharpest. But underneath those nervy scorelines is one of the most remarkable defensive records in tournament history. Side index equals 1-1. Before their win over Belgium in the quarterfinal, Spain had not conceded a single goal in 6 straight matches, the longest such streak in World Cup history. /site, side index equals 1-1. Spain finally sealed their spot in the semi-final with a 2-1 win over Belgium in Los Angeles, courtesy of a late goal from Arsenal's Mikel Merino. /site, that's not a coincidence, either. Merino has now scored the winning goal in back-to-back knockout matches for Spain, which tells you exactly how this team has been surviving under pressure. Here's where things get genuinely fascinating, and where FIFA's dream matchup becomes something even bigger for Spain fans in particular. Side index equals 2-1. France and Spain have faced each other 38 times throughout history, but remarkably, they've only met once at the actual World Cup, back in 2006, when France won 3-1 in the last 16, thanks to goals from Frank Ribery, Patrick Vieira, and Zinedine Zidane. /site, that match is 2 decades old now, so it tells us almost nothing about what to expect on Tuesday. What matters far more is the recent history, and this is where Spain has a genuine psychological edge. Side index equals 2-1. At the European Championships, France and Spain have met 5 times, with 2 wins apiece and 1 draw. Their most recent meeting came at Euro 2024, when Spain beat France 2-1 in the semi-final, with Lamine Yamal and Dani Olmo scoring the goals. /site, that result sent Spain on to become European champions, and it's a memory Spanish fans have been replaying all week. And it doesn't stop there. Spain also has the bragging rights from last year's Nations League, defeating France 5-4 in the semi-final, an absolute goalfest that showed just how open and unpredictable this rivalry can be when both teams go for it. Spain manager Luis de la Fuente has been leaning heavily into this history in the build-up. Speaking to the press this week, side index equals 14-1. De la Fuente didn't hold back on the magnitude of the occasion, saying, "It's not an exaggeration to describe this match as a final before the final," and adding, "We're one of the teams capable of reaching the final." /site, he went further, pointing directly at the head-to-head record as a source of confidence, noting that side index equals 12-1. Spain is the only team to have beaten France in 2 semifinals. /site, that specific stat, that Spain remains the only nation to have knocked France out at the semifinal stage twice, has become the central talking point of the entire build-up. And de la Fuente's personal history with this fixture adds even more weight to his confidence. Side index equals 15-1, including Tuesday's match. De la Fuente will have faced France 6 times in semifinals across his coaching career, at under-19s, under-21s, and senior level, and his record against Les Blues in semifinals stands at 4 wins and just 1 defeat. /site, side index equals 15-1. That single loss came in his very first meeting with France, and he appears to have solved the puzzle ever since. /site. Now let's get into the details that could genuinely swing this match, because both squads are dealing with fitness concerns heading into kickoff. For France, the headline concern all week has been the fitness of key players. Side index equals 21-1. Kylian Mbappe picked up a knock to his ankle in the closing stages of the win over Morocco and was substituted in the 77th minute after receiving ice treatment, though he insisted afterward that he was completely fine. /site, all signs point to France's captain being available and ready to start. There's also better news emerging on the midfield front. Side index equals 25-1. According to L'Equipe journalist Damien Degore, Aurélien Tchouaméni's recovery has been described as satisfactory, and he appears fit to start after missing France's last 2 matches with an adductor issue. /site, if Tchouaméni is back alongside Adrien Rabiot in that midfield pivot, it gives Deschamps a far more physical, experienced base to work from against Spain's technical midfield trio. However, it hasn't been entirely smooth sailing on the defensive side. Side index equals 20-1. Reports from L'Equipe indicated that central defenders Dayot Upamecano and William Saliba did not participate in France's training session just days before the semifinal, with Upamecano dealing with a sudden foot injury and Saliba continuing to manage ongoing back discomfort that has required reduced training intensity throughout the tournament. /site, worth watching closely, though as of the latest team news, both remain expected to be available for selection. And on the disciplinary side, side index equals 21-1. France have no players suspended for the semifinal, with all yellow cards wiped clean heading into the knockout stage. /site. As for Spain, the picture is considerably more settled. Side index equals 19-1. Spain come into this match with a clean bill of health, with no starter flagged on the injury list, meaning Luis de la Fuente should be able to field his strongest possible lineup. Site. That's a significant advantage heading into a match of this magnitude. Side index equals 22-1. Wingers Nico Williams and Jeremy Pino both battled injuries earlier in the tournament, but both have since returned, and Spain have no players suspended for the tie either, with yellow cards also reset ahead of the last four. Site. On the tactical side, both managers appear set to stick with the systems that got them this far. Side index equals 19-1. France are expected to line up in their familiar 4-2-3-1, with Kylian Mbappe leading the line, supported by Ousmane Dembele, Michael Ollis, and Desire Doué just behind him, while Aurelien Tchouameni and Adrien Rabiot anchor the midfield pivot. Site. Spain, meanwhile, is sticking with the shape that has carried them through some tense knockout football. Side index equals 19-1. Spain set up in a 4-3-3 under de la Fuente, with Rodri and Pedri anchoring behind Dani Olmo, and a front line featuring Lamine Yamal, Mikel Oyarzabal, and Alex Baena. Side index equals 23-1. Captain Rodri sits as the midfield anchor, with Dani Olmo occupying the attacking midfield space, while Pau Cubarsí and Aymeric Laporte have formed a settled center-back partnership in front of goalkeeper Unai Simon. Site. The tactical battle here is fascinating on paper. Side index equals 19-1. This is genuinely a heavyweight tie between France's pace and finishing on the counter against Spain's control and rhythm through midfield, with Spain's main edge widely seen as coming through the middle of the park, led by Rodri, while France's Aurelien Tchouameni's fitness had been the biggest question mark heading into match day. Site. No preview of this match would be complete without talking about the individual duel that's captured the imagination of football fans everywhere. Kylian Mbappe against Lamine Yamal. Side index equals 2-1. These two of football's most prodigious talents have crossed paths several times before in La Liga's El Clasico, given their club rivalry between Real Madrid and Barcelona. But this time the stage is far bigger, with a World Cup final spot on the line. Site. Side index equals 2-1. Mbappe and Yamal also shared the pitch at Euro 2024, when Yamal marked Mbappe during that semi-final that Spain went on to win. Site. Since then, Yamal has become one of the most talked about young players on the planet, and this rematch on the World Cup stage is being treated as must-watch television by fans on both sides of the rivalry. It's worth noting, though, that Yamal's tournament so far hasn't quite hit the heights of his club form or his Euro 2024 breakout. Side index equals 1-1. After scoring in Spain's group stage win over Saudi Arabia, Yamal hasn't registered another goal contribution at this World Cup, a noticeable dip compared to his form at Euro 2024 and the 2025 Nations League. Site. That hasn't stopped him from talking a big game in the build-up, though. The young forward has publicly stated that Spain are not afraid of France heading into Tuesday's clash. So why does this particular semi-final carry so much weight, even by World Cup standards? It comes down to quality density. Football analysts widely view this as the strongest matchup remaining in the bracket, stronger, on paper, than the final itself might turn out to be. Side index equals 2-1. As of Sunday, Opta's supercomputer gave France a 42.1% probability of winning in regulation time, with Spain sitting at 31.8% and a 26.1% chance the match goes to extra time. Site. Numbers that reflect just how close this contest is expected to be, despite France going in as slight statistical favorites. Tactically, this comes down to a clash of identities. France wants to hit Spain on the counter, using Mbappe's pace and Dembele and Ollis' directness to punish any gaps Spain leaves while pushing numbers forward. Spain, by contrast, wants to slow the game down, dominate possession through Rodri and Pedri, and draw France's backline out of position before finding pockets of space for Yamal, Baena, and Oyarzabal. If Spain managed to control the tempo the way they have in previous meetings with France, particularly at Euro 2024, they'll fancy their chances of frustrating Les Blues. But if France's front four get in behind early and put Spain's back four under sustained pressure, this could turn into exactly the kind of end-to-end shootout we saw in last year's Nations League meeting. The stakes extend beyond just Tuesday night, too. Side index equals 19-1. The winner advances directly to the 2026 World Cup final on Sunday, July 19th, where they'll meet the winner of the Argentina versus England semifinal, played on Wednesday, July 15/site, so whoever wins this match gets a few extra days of rest compared to whoever survives the Argentina-England clash, a small but potentially meaningful edge heading into the final. The football world has been split down the middle in the build-up to this game. And honestly, that's rare for a match this big. Pundits across Europe have widely echoed De La Fuente's framing of this as the final before the final, with several major outlets pointing out that whichever side survives Tuesday will likely be installed as favorites for the trophy itself, regardless of who they face next. On social media, French fans have pointed to their team's perfect record and the individual brilliance of Mbappé and Aulas as reasons for confidence, while Spanish supporters have leaned hard into the head-to-head history, repeating De La Fuente's point that Spain remains the only team to beat France in back-to-back semifinal meetings. Former players and pundits covering the tournament have largely described the tie as a genuine coin flip, with the general consensus landing somewhere close to the Opta model's numbers, a slight edge to France, but nothing close to a foregone conclusion. So what should you be watching for as we approach kickoff? First, keep an eye on the official team sheets when they drop roughly an hour before the match, particularly to see whether Kouameni is confirmed to start for France, and whether Deschamps opts to protect Upamecano or Saliba, given their recent training absences. Second, watch the opening 20 minutes closely. Given Spain's pattern of slow building, patient performances that often turn on a single moment, and France's habit of striking early and often, the way this match starts could shape the entire tactical picture for the remaining 90 minutes. And of course, the biggest thing to watch for, the result itself, and the ripple effect it has heading into the World Cup final on July 19th. Whoever wins books their place in the biggest match in world football, facing the winner of Argentina against England just 5 days later. Let's bring it all together. France arrives in Dallas unbeaten and clinical, riding the brilliance of Kylian Mbappé and the breakout emergence of Michael Aulas. Spain arrives battle-tested, defensively elite, and carrying a psychological advantage built on years of getting the better of France when it matters most. Add in the Mbappé-Amal storyline, the injury questions surrounding France's backline, and a World Cup final spot on the line, and it's easy to see why so many are calling this the real final of the tournament, a full round early. Whatever happens on Tuesday night in Dallas, one European heavyweight is going home, and one is marching on toward football's biggest prize. If you enjoyed today's football update, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest football news from around the world. Thanks for watching Football Daily Dispatch, and we'll see you in the next update.